absolutely think the market has this wrong.
Do not sell your Bitcoin. Do not sell your quality crypto. I'm buying more Bitcoin. I'm buying 6 specific quality altcoins. Why? Because the next 15 to 30 days will make millionaires. That's why. You're being tricked. We showed you this yesterday. They want you to sell. They want you to give up on crypto. They are buying your fear. So let's talk about the 6 coins I'm buying and how I plan to turn them into millions. Not financial advice, of course, just what I'm doing. I've been full-time crypto for 7+ years. I know more than most people on what's actually going on here. So smash the like button, send this video to one friend who needs to understand all of this. People selling are 100% wrong on this one, in my opinion. I expect markets to be a lot higher in the future, and so does smart money.
I think the right question to ask is, did this executive order make it more likely that in the future, Bitcoin will be a geopolitically important currency or asset? Will other governments look to follow the US's lead and build their own strategic reserve?
Smart money is buying, not selling. Why? Because you're scared and they're not. Smart money loves to buy discounted assets during tumultuous times just like this. That's how you get the most upside. That's how you become a millionaire. I love when I see extremely smart, knowledgeable people in the know thinking very similarly, if not the exact same way that I do. In this case, Bitwise CIO Matt Hogan explains why if you're selling now or if you're giving up on this industry now, you are 100% wrong. Listen.
I absolutely think the market has this wrong. You're 100% correct that the market is short-term disappointed that the government didn't come out and say it's going to immediately start acquiring 100 or 200,000 Bitcoin. It did say it will look for budget-neutral ways to do so in the future, and I expect the U.S. government to figure out a way to increase its Bitcoin stores over time. But regardless of that, I think that's the wrong question to ask. I think the right question to ask is, did this executive order make it more likely that in the future, Bitcoin will be a geopolitically important currency or asset? Will other governments look to follow the US's lead and build their own strategic reserve? And to me, the answer to that is emphatically yes. The reason that question matters is that's the question that determines if Bitcoin is, $80,000 a coin or $1 million a coin. So I think this is a short-term setback. I think the market will soon find its footing and realize that actually this is incredibly bullish long-term for this asset and for crypto as a whole.
Think about it. Nothing bad happened to Bitcoin. Nothing bad happened to Ethereum or XRP or Solana or ADA. The blockchains didn't break. There's just fear in the air. This is all just short-term fear and uncertainty that will eventually turn bullish. Think about it like this. There's extreme fear in the market right now. In fact, fear is at the exact same levels that we saw during the 2020 COVID-19 crash and the 2022 FTX bottom. When was the best time to buy over the last 5 years? Here and here. Now, today, we're in the exact same zone, but the most bullish crypto backdrop has just went into full effect. The US is moving forward with its strategic Bitcoin reserve, moving forward with its digital asset stockpile. Make sure you subscribe to Altcoin Daily for daily videos just like this. Longtime subscribers will remember this video when Bitcoin crashed from 14K to 8K. The exact same sentiment that Morgan Creek's Mark Yesko shares in this video is true today. I love how they make fun of him at the end.
Before we go, Bitcoin was under 8,000 earlier today.
Buy it.
Regardless, though, of the drop. If I said to you Bitcoin dropped to 5,000, you'd say buy it.
Buy it. Because here's the thing. The daily price of Bitcoin doesn't matter. It's been alive for 10 years. In every year, other than one, 2015, it's made a higher low. The market cap has grown every single year. Every fundamental indicator of Bitcoin, usage, wallets, block size, transaction size, number of transactions, every single one, hash rate, making new highs. All of the indicators of the network and the network value are rising. The price of any asset fluctuates. Let's take Amazon. Amazon has been a public company for 20 years. In every year, including this year, it's at a double-digit drawdown. The average peak to trough, minus 31%. Twice, minus 90%. When was the right time to sell? Never. Who's owned it since the IPO to today? Jeff and his mom and dad. That's it.
All right. We're going to leave it there, Mark.
All right,
Good to
thanks.
see you. Thank you, Mark Yesko, Morgan Creek Capital.
Outcast.
So, in my opinion, you need to buy coins that the US government is going to fully support and put in their digital asset stockpile. America-supported coins. I see so much misinformation going around regarding the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve, regarding the digital asset stockpile. Most people don't even understand the difference. There are so many detractors that have come out of the woodwork to say that the digital asset stockpile or Bitcoin Strategic Reserve isn't a good idea, but most people don't even understand the finer details about what exactly is about to happen. Crypto czar David Sachs explains step by step how they will build out the US Strategic Bitcoin Reserve and digital asset stockpile. Most people don't dive deep enough to even understand this information, let alone then have an opinion on it. Don't be like most people. This 3-minute clip can be the difference from you actually becoming a millionaire or you just missing out. So pay attention.
Yeah, we're not picking favorites, obviously, except I will say this. We do think Bitcoin is special. And I can get into the reasons
explain why. That's a great thing, yeah.
Well,
explain
I mean, Bitcoin's the original cryptocurrency. It's the first one. It's the only one that doesn't have an issuer, right? It's very decentralized. It's, in crypto, they call this the Immaculate Conception. We don't really know how it got here. We don't know who Satoshi is. It's almost mystical, you would say.
Yes.
It's the most valuable one. It has a $2 trillion market cap, and it's the most secure. It's never been hacked, right? So we're now, over 15 years into this journey. And there's been a lot of people who've been skeptical along the way, and there's been a lot of ups and downs. But here it is. I mean, I remember back in 2011, I think it's the first time I bought a Bitcoin. I think it was at $120. Now it's at $90,000. Again, there have been all sorts of wild swings along the way, but this thing just keeps chugging along. And you can think of that $2 trillion market cap as like a $2 trillion bug bounty. If there was a way to hack this, there's every incentive in the world. And by hack, I mean like to double spend, create basically a counterfeit Bitcoin, I guess would be the way for people to think about it. And
it is a miracle it hasn't been compromised. I think we can all say that.
Well, I don't know if it's a miracle. I think it's exceptional design.
Sure.
And so I think what you could say is that it's been tested in a very robust way, and there's been every incentive to basically break the encryption, and it continues to chug along. And so I think the price has gone up as the protocol has gotten more acceptance. And this is another point, is that Bitcoin is the most widely accepted as a store of value throughout the world.
Yeah.
So we do believe it should be treated special. Now, that being said, we're also creating the digital asset stockpile. So all the other digital assets.
Explain the difference between these two. So there's a digital asset stockpile. That's the picker. And then on the other side, there's a strategic reserve for Bitcoin.
So we have the reserve and we have the stockpile. So the reserve is just Bitcoin. The goal is long-term preservation. Think of it as like a digital Fort Knox for digital gold. We want to put the digital gold in there. We want to keep it secure. We never want to sell it. That's the goal of the reserve. And you're right that we've made the mistake in the past of selling this stuff. At one point in time, we had about 400,000 Bitcoin on the federal balance sheet. We sold roughly half of that for something like $360 million total. If we had held all of that, it would be worth, just that the portion we sold would be worth over 17 billion. So we made this mistake of prematurely selling Bitcoin when we should have held it. We don't want to make that mistake with regard to the rest of it. That's Bitcoin. Okay, so then you got the stockpile. Let me just talk about that. So first of all, like I said, we don't know exactly what digital assets the federal government has. I've seen reports that it might have, for example, 50,000 ETH, which is Ethereum. But again, we need to get to the bottom of that. When we figure out exactly what the assets are, we're going to move them into the digital stockpile. The purpose of the stockpile is responsible stewardship. It's a place for safekeeping. It's a centralized, you could say, account under the direction of the Secretary of the Treasury. And the Secretary of the Treasury will figure out how to maximize the values of these holdings. Now, there's a couple of important differences between stockpile and reserve. So one is the reserve, the executive order actually provides that the Secretary of the Treasury will not sell the Bitcoin. Okay, we're prohibited from selling the Bitcoin. There's no such prohibition with respect to the stockpile. If the Secretary of the Treasury decides that it's in the long-term interest of the U.S. to rebalance the portfolio or change the portfolio, the Secretary has the discretion to do that.
Okay, which makes sense because there's a long tail of crypto. We might see something that we don't have the ability to predict the future, and we don't have the staff to sit there and look at these assets every day. So maybe the decision with Ethereum is, hey, this thing's waning. We just put it into Bitcoin because we know that's the more solid one. Yeah, that's what I'm reading into it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's largely fair. I mean, look, I think that the stockpile should be subject to good portfolio management, right? And fortunately, we have a Secretary of the Treasury who is an extremely successful former hedge fund manager. So he's going to figure out the best way to manage these assets. And we give him the flexibility to do portfolio management. But the reserve is different, right? The reserve is just digital Fort Knox. Now, there's one other important difference between stockpile and reserve. So with respect to reserve, the EO provides that the secretaries that I'm talking about, Treasury and Commerce, they're allowed to figure out strategies to accumulate more Bitcoin for the reserve if those strategies are budget neutral and don't cost the taxpayer anything. Okay. So it's possible that we could, I'm not saying that we will, but it authorizes them to acquire more Bitcoin if they can figure out a way to do it that doesn't impact the federal budget or the deficit or taxpayers.
So we do have the FOMC meeting coming up. I know the market is very bearish on the Fed cutting rates right now, but I do think we still get a couple of rate cuts this year, maybe even in about 15 to 30 days. Obviously, Trump won't be happy with just a couple rate cuts. He's going to want the Fed to cut more. But either way, in my opinion, I think we're still going to get the Fed cutting. So millionaires will be made in the next 15 to 30 days. If the market has already bottomed or is bottoming now, millionaires will be made in the next 15 to 30 days. You might have to wait 6 months to 9 months or a year or just generally have a long-term outlook, but how can you not be bullish? All that being said, I'm loading up heavy on Bitcoin. I'm loading up on Ethereum, Solana, Supra, Cardano, Chainlink, Coti. I think we've entered a whole new era for crypto, and the global elites and the whales are using Trump's tariff policies to add to the FUD, creating lower lows, creating the biggest buying opportunity that we've had in years. So if you're buying the dip like me, post this video on social media, send this video to a friend, because I wish somebody would have sent me a video like this when crypto prices were so low before. I made today's video to hopefully give somebody else a chance. Guys, my name is Aaron Arnold at Altcoin Daily. We bring you daily information on everything crypto, so make sure you subscribe, and I'll see you tomorrow.